Good morning, students. Welcome to P.N.AMERSEY e-learning classes. Students, this is the fourth part of chapter number 11, Force and Pressure. Let's start our video, students. Yesterday we have studied about contact forces, and there are two types of contact forces, and they are muscular force and frictional force. And what is contact force? As I told you earlier, a force which can be exerted by an object on another object only through physical touching is called a contact force. Today we are going to start non-contact force. Now what is non-contact force? Force which can be exerted by an object on another object even from a distance without touching each other is called non-contact force. There is no physical contact between the object which exerts the force and the object on which force is exerted. The example of non-contact forces are, first one is magnetic force, and second one is electrostatic force, and third one is gravitational force. So students, we will now describe the magnetic force, electrostatic force and gravitational force one by one. So students, let's start with non-contact force, and first one is magnetic force. A magnet attracts things made up of iron or steel. So, if we bring a magnet near iron nails or pins, the magnet pulls them towards it. Since the iron nails and pins moves towards the magnet, it means that the magnet exerts a force on them. The force exerted by a magnet is called magnetic force. The magnetic force acts even from a distance. The magnet exerts a magnetic force on objects made up of iron, steel, nickel and cobalt. It does not exert a force on objects made up of copper, wood or glass. When we bring a magnet slowly near some iron pins, then at a certain small distance, the iron pins suddenly jumps towards the magnet and stick to it, even when the magnet has not touched them. Since a magnet can exert its magnetic force on iron objects from distance even without touching them, therefore we can say that magnetic force is a non-contact force. The magnetic force between a magnet and an iron or steel object is always that of attraction. Students, we have already studied in class 6th that the like poles of two magnets repel each other, whereas unlike poles of magnet attract each other. This means that there is a magnetic force of repulsion between the like poles of two magnets. On the other hand, there is a magnetic force of attraction between two unlike poles of two magnets. We do not have to bring the two magnets in contact with each other for observing the magnetic force between them. A magnet can exert a force on another magnet even from a distance without touching the other magnet, or we can say without being in contact with the other magnet. So the magnetic force exerted by one magnet on the other magnet is an example of a non-contact force. So students, we will now perform an activity to show the magnetic force of attraction as well as repulsion between two bar magnets. For that, take two similar bar magnets, place one bar magnet over three wooden rollers, such as three round pencils. Keep on a table as shown in the figure. The south pole of bar magnet kept on roller is on the left side. As you can see in the figure, we hold the other bar magnet in our hand and bring its north pole gradually near the south pole of bar magnet placed on rollers, making sure that the two magnets do not touch each other. So students, we will observe that when the north pole of hand-held magnet is brought near the south pole of other magnet, the magnet placed on roller begins to move towards the hand-held magnet. And what is the conclusion for that? Conclusion is that the north pole of hand-held magnet exerting a magnetic force of attraction on the south pole of magnet kept on rollers, which make it move towards the hand-held magnet. Thus, unlike poles, that means north pole and south poles of magnet exert a magnetic force of attraction. Now bring the south pole of hand-held magnet gradually near the south pole of magnet placed on roller. So after performing this activity, we will observe that when the south pole of hand-held magnet brought near the south pole of other magnet, the magnet placed on the rollers begins to move away from the hand-held magnet. And what is the conclusion of this activity? This activity shows that the south pole of hand-held magnet is exerting a magnetic force of repulsion on the south pole of magnet placed on rollers, which make it move away from the hand-held magnet. Thus, we can say that like poles, that means south pole and south pole of magnets exert a magnetic force of repulsion. Now another non-contact force is electrostatic force. Now what is electrostatic force, student? The force exerted by an electrically charged object is called electrostatic force. An electrically charged object can exert an electrostatic force on an uncharged object or another charged object. For example, a plastic comb or a plastic pen, which is electrically charged by rubbing in dry hair, exert an electrostatic force on uncharged tiny pieces of paper and attracts them. So let us discuss it in detail. We take a plastic comb and rub it in our dry hair for about 1 minute. Then bring this comb near the tiny pieces of paper. What we will find? We will find that this comb attracts the tiny pieces of paper. The tiny pieces of paper move towards the comb and stick to it. This can be explained as follows. When the plastic comb is rubbed in dry hair, the comb gets electric charged by friction. And when this electrically charged comb is brought near the tiny pieces of paper, it exerts an electrostatic force of attraction on them. Due to this electrostatic force, the tiny pieces of paper move towards the comb and stick to it. So we can say that the electrostatic force can be exerted by a charged object on another object from a distance, even when they are not in touch with each other. So electrostatic force is an example of an non-contact force. Now third type of non-contact force is gravitational force. Newton said that every object in this universe pulls every other object with a certain force. The gravitational force between two objects is a force of attraction, and it acts even if the two objects are not connected by any means. It is the gravitational force between the Sun and the Earth which holds the Earth in its orbit around the Sun. And it is the gravitational force between Earth and the Moon which holds the Moon in its orbit around the Earth. The gravitational force of Earth acts on objects from a distance without there being a physical contact. Therefore, we can say that gravitational force or gravity is an example of non-contact forces. Students, these are some pictures of gravitational force. From these pictures, you can get the idea of what is gravitational force. That's all for today's video, student. We will meet again tomorrow with the remaining part of this chapter. Up till then, goodbye and thank you.